Electoral bonds controversy in India. An unprecedented scandal. Recently, Rajasthan's Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot made headlines with a striking allegation, describing the electoral bond scheme as the most egregious fraud in the history of India since its independence. His critique comes at a moment of intense political debate, creating a stark contrast to the central government's narrative, which champions the scheme as a hallmark of transparency in political funding. This clash of perspectives has thrust the issue of electoral bonds into the national conversation, prompting widespread examination of the principles underlying political finance within India, the world's largest democracy. The central government had introduced electoral bonds with the aim of purifying the channels of political funding, asserting that the scheme would usher in an era of unprecedented transparency and accountability. However, Gehlot's accusation casts a long shadow over these claims, suggesting instead that the initiative may have inadvertently opened the door to opaque financial practices that could undermine the democratic process. As the debate escalates, it brings to the forefront the critical issue of how political activities are financed and the potential for misuse within the current system, challenging the very foundations of electoral integrity and public trust in political institutions. Gehlot's assertion that the electoral bonds represent the biggest scam is not just a critique of a funding mechanism, but a reflection of deeper concerns about the potential for financial malpractices to infiltrate the political arena unchecked. His words signal a call to action for greater scrutiny and demand a reevaluation of the mechanisms in place for political donations, spotlighting the delicate balance between encouraging legitimate funding and preventing financial manipulation. As this discussion gains momentum, it promises to shape the discourse on political funding in India, underscoring the urgent need for clarity, transparency, and accountability in how political contributions are made and tracked. In essence, Gehlot's bold statement has not only questioned the effectiveness of the electoral bond scheme, but also ignited a broader debate on the integrity of political financing in India. This controversy serves as a critical juncture, challenging policymakers, political analysts, and the public to critically assess the transparency and accountability of political funding mechanisms. As the nation grapples with these questions, the outcome of this debate could have profound implications for the future of democratic governance in India, making it a pivotal moment in the country's ongoing pursuit of a more transparent and accountable political system. The debate over electoral bonds has escalated significantly following serious accusations by Mem. Hassan, the acting president of the Kerala Pradesh Congress Committee (KPCC). Hassan's assertions shed light on a troubling aspect of the electoral bond scheme, suggesting it has become a vehicle for widespread corruption within the government's project allocations. A particularly alarming case highlighted involves a company linked to a BJP Rajya Sabha MP, which reportedly purchased electoral bonds valued at Rupee 45 crore, shortly before securing a hydroelectric project contract worth approximately Rupee 1098 crore. This incident is not isolated, but is presented as a piece of evidence of a systemic issue, hinting at a pervasive pattern of quid pro quo deals that are allegedly facilitated by the secretive nature of the electoral bonds system. These revelations introduce a critical dimension to the controversy, suggesting that the scheme may enable significant financial transactions that could influence governmental decisions, raising profound concerns about the integrity of political financing and governance. Further compounding the controversy are allegations of coercion, with several companies reportedly pressured into buying these bonds under the threat of investigations by the Enforcement Directorate (ED) and the Central Bureau of Investigation (CBI). Such practices, if true, represent a disturbing manipulation of regulatory agencies to bolster party finances, eroding the principles of fairness and transparency that are supposed to underpin political funding. The scheme's implications extend beyond the political arena, touching on issues of tax evasion and regulatory compliance. Hassan highlights the case of major pharmaceutical companies, previously under the scanner for tax discrepancies, who turned to electoral bonds to funnel substantial amounts into the political system. This raises alarming questions about the complicity of political entities and enabling corporate malpractices in exchange for financial support. The scale of the transactions involved underscores the potential magnitude of the scandal. Companies like Mega Engineering and Infrastructures Limited and individuals, such as Lottery King Santiago Martin, have made staggering contributions through electoral bonds, only to receive significant government contracts or face raids by financial watchdogs subsequently. These cases suggest a symbiotic relationship between political patronage and financial largesse, facilitated by the opacity of the electoral bonds scheme. As the electoral bond saga unfolds, it is poised to become a focal point of political discourse in the upcoming election cycle. The allegations of corruption, coercion, and collusion between political entities and corporate interests call for a rigorous examination of the scheme's impact on the democratic process. The promise of transparency and clean funding stands tarnished by accusations that challenge the integrity of India's political financing mechanisms. As we at InfoBurst conclude our exploration of the electoral bonds controversy, it's clear that this debate stands as a watershed moment for Indian democracy. This critical discourse highlights the inherent conflict between the aspiration for transparent political funding and the practical realities shaped by the urgent needs of political campaigning and the substantial influence of corporate entities. This ongoing conversation not only shines a light on the complexities of upholding integrity and accountability within the world's largest democracy, but also signals a pivotal era of scrutiny and potential transformation in political funding practices. The electoral bonds issue, as dissected on our channel, reveals the intricate balancing act required to navigate the demands for financial transparency against the backdrop of political necessities and the powerful sway of corporate contributions. This controversy transcends mere policy critique, evolving into a profound examination of democratic values and the mechanisms through which democracy's lifeblood political funding is sustained and regulated. For India, the ramifications of this debate are profound, promising to shape the landscape of political finance regulation for years to come. The outcomes of this contention may redefine the parameters of political engagement, influencing not only the political entities embroiled in the current discourse, but also the very principles of governance and public trust. As InfoBurst continues to monitor these developments, the conversation surrounding electoral bonds serves as a critical reminder of the challenges democracies face in balancing transparency with political viability. Ultimately, the narrative surrounding electoral bonds is more than a policy debate. It's a reflection on the evolution of democratic governance amid changing political and economic dynamics. The resolution of this controversy will indelibly impact the fabric of Indian democracy,